Okay, welcome everybody, and those that have already tuned in, welcome and thanks. Welcome to episode 5, creating market realities with AR and VR. So while we have some more guests joining, as every week, we'll have about an hour. We'll make sure we have sufficient time for your questions. So please, right away, use the Q&A function and type away. We have some fantastic guests today from Microsoft, from Zuhlke, from thyssenkrupp, and from the ZHAW School of Engineering in today's episode when we talk about the virtual and augmented world. So my name is Lars, former journalist and professional storyteller, and I'm your host today together with Andreas Enderlin. Andreas, you're ready for episode 5?
I am, Lars. I am, Lars.
So this webinar series is brought to you by SwissJam and Deloitte. And today's topic, creating market realities with augmented reality AR and virtual reality VR. And we'll have a look in a moment a little bit on what does it mean so that we have a framework on what to discuss. As you might know, the market for AR technology is growing rapidly with projections just for 2023 valuing it at over 18 billion US dollars. Some of the big adopters of AR, of course, include Facebook, Google, Samsung, and Microsoft, and we're very lucky to have them today on the show. So before we dive into the topic, today's the last chance to get the reminder about the fantastic DX Leaders Award Series. So Andreas, you want to do a quick run on the reminder what people can still do today and tomorrow for the awards?
Yes, well, thank you, Lars, for that. Actually, we agreed last time that you would do the presentation, but maybe No. So let me just quickly give you, and very quickly, a short introduction on the award, because this is why we're here today also. It's one piece of the digital transformation exercise that we have initiated beginning of this year. So we have the award and we have this DX Leaders series. And I just want to give you a quick run through what we mean by this award. So maybe next page, Clarissa. So 2 objectives. Basically what we discussed is to really showcase the digitalization efforts within the companies. Make sure we provide a platform for people to show what they have been doing over the last couple of months. That's, I think, very important. The second objective of the award was actually this best practice exchange that we are having today. So we are inviting thought leaders, people that understand the topic from a practical point of view. That was always very important. And this channel is called DX Leaders, and I'm very happy to have all these experts on the panel today. On the eligibility, if you have not yet applied, you can apply if you are registered in Singapore, if you're an SME, if you're an MNC, if you're a startup, if you're a non-profit organization, you can apply. So you have 1 night and 1 day to go. So deadline is tomorrow evening. So if you still decide to apply, please go to our website and you will see all the details there. On the assessment criteria, I will not go into the details. We have an assessment framework. You will also be able, as the public, to vote for the winning initiative. And as you can see, we have a lot of supporters and also sponsors. So a warm thank you to all the sponsors, especially also of today's webinar. So Zuhlke has been one of the first sponsors, a true visionary, I would say, and we're very grateful to have them on board. They believed in the concept of this Digital Transformation Award from the very beginning, and for this I would like to thank you very warmly. Then we have a lot of supporters, Enterprise Singapore, all the chambers, so this is really broadly integrated in the ecosystem here in Singapore, so please apply if you see the benefits. And if we go 1 page further, the benefits really are clear. It's about recognition. It's about this best practice exchange I was mentioning. It's about accessing new networks, new people, extend the networks that you have, attractive prices also, and you will get verifiable next generation digital certificate. Here you see the timeline. Obviously, tomorrow night is the deadline, so please apply, and we will be happy to receive your application. If you have any questions, Clarissa, Andrea are happy to answer them. Thank you very much. Back to you, Lars. Was that quick enough?
That was the fastest so far in the last episodes. As we are running out of time for the award submissions, that was right on track. So before we jump into the guest introduction, today's poll to get an idea where everybody stands. So AR, VR, or MR for mixed realities, is it a value-adding technology or just another hyped-up gimmick? So let's ask the audience where they stand. Is it a value-adding technology or another hyped-up gimmick? Let's see what everybody thinks. I'm sure I shouldn't ask the panel, otherwise, you know, what do we have left to discuss? But Andreas, what's your take on value-adding on percentage? What's your guess? I think you're on mute. But I'm sure your thoughts are profound, but on mute.
Sorry for that. So I think 50-50. That would be my guess.
Okay, fantastic. Then let's close the poll and have a quick look. What does our audience think today? Oh, well, much better. 80% value-adding technology, and that's what we exactly want to dive into. Thank you, everybody, for participating. So we'll directly kick it off with one of our guests and panelists from Microsoft. That's Tetsu Muranaka. He's the Asia Partner Lead, Mixed Reality Global Sales at Microsoft. Hi, Tetsu. How are you doing today?
Hey, Lars. Pretty good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. So is that real you, or is that already augmented or virtual, or what we're seeing from you? Are you an avatar? No.
Well, it's real life, so it's probably it's a mix.
So thanks for being on the episode, and you want to share a little bit about giving a framework that we know what we're actually talking about, right?
Sure, my pleasure. So I have to say that I put in a vote for a value add technology. If it isn't, I would be out of a job, but I just want to take the audience through kind of like definitions of AR and VR and MR. So when you think about, I think, AR and VR is a widely used more term, and I think lots of people are familiar. And I think MR is a little bit kind of new term. And just kind of give you a simple overview of what each technology is. Let me just start off with a VR, virtual reality. As it starts with the word virtual reality, as you can see in this chart, it's completely digital. So if you put your headset on, you're completely in a computer digital world, completely immersive. So think of virtual reality as 100% immersive. Some of the new technology are see-through, but basically just think of virtual reality as 100% digital. And when you think of AR, augmented reality, I think this kind of comes up to mind where you utilize your smartphone or your tablets, and where you use the screen and to kind of like show digital information into the real world. And on the other hand, you have mixed reality, which, as the term says, it's the mix of the real and virtual world. So it's interaction, being able to manipulate while having a headset on digital images within the real world. And if you can switch to the next slide, I've put it into a little bit more visual version for the audience to be able to kind of understand more easily. So on the left-hand side, you have the physical world, the world that we are in. And then you have on the right-hand side, the digital world, the so called the world that's created by computers. So as I mentioned, you have virtual reality on the digital side, and then you have augmented reality on the physical side. And mixed reality, as it's noted here, the blending of physical and digital worlds, especially if you go through the Hololens, it's a transparent lens. So what you see is the real world in front of you. And then you have the so-called value-added digital data in front of you to assist you with your, whether it's a work case or a workload that you're working on, or whether it might be entertainment. So that's kind of a nutshell definition of these three technologies.
Fantastic. Thanks for the introduction and overview, Tetsu. And let's go over to our other panelists that we have today with us. So let me start with Dr. Fredrik Gundelsweiler. He's the principal consultant and head of mobile and augmented reality at Zuhlke Switzerland. So Fredrik, what's your take on augmented reality? How does Zuhlke approach the topic?
Yeah, we see augmented reality and mixed reality and also virtual reality more like a connected realities, so that it's always important to have like the infrastructure ready for that. And this is about digitalization in the companies. So yeah, I'm working for more than about 10 years now on these topics. And my opinion is that augmented reality has the potential to change the way we work and live, but it will not be like the revolution as it is announced, but more like a slower paced evolution of the human user interface.
Fantastic, thank you. Over to our next guest, Professor Dr. Franz Baumgartner from the ZHAW School of Engineering. So what fascinates you about the topic?
Hello, from Zurich University. It is fascinating that you can place a planning of a PV installation on a rooftop by using the Hololens for measurement and planning, and at the end, export and offer to the customers. So having all in one, and that's a big benefit also in terms of costs, but more later on.
Fantastic. And last but not least, we have Thomas Sendelbach. He's the manager of digital operations from thyssenkrupp with us today. Hi, Thomas. How are you doing? How excited are you about the topic?
Hi. Of course, a lot. So my name is Thomas Sendelbach. I'm working for thyssenkrupp Home Solutions. We are offering engineer-to-order products and using the HoloLens to visualize the potential future product for a customer. I'm in the CPQ configure price quote business since many years, and what you usually get as an output from this process might be CAD files, CAD drawings, general arrangement drawings, but you will never get a customized, personalized preview of your future engineer-to-order product. And that was the reason why I joined this project 1.5 years ago. So this is a totally brand new experience for me, and I've never seen such a good solution in that area. But of course, being the operation manager, there are also hurdles to cross rolling it out, and maybe we come to that later.
Okay. Over to you, Andreas, with the first in-depth questions.
Yes, so maybe I have a very real question here to just set the stage a bit, because we have been already hearing some definitions. We have been hearing maybe some challenges. But if I look at the panelist board, we have a very diverse set of backgrounds. And so my first question would actually be on the application of AR and VR. And what are the current challenges that you are facing, in your own organization? Because in the end, it's all about the application, and you're all very, very much expert in that field. But what are the challenges that you are facing on a daily basis in applying these technologies? Maybe we start with Mr. Fredrik Gundelsweiler.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for the question. This is, as we at Zuhlke work for many different customers and different branches and industries, we see this mixed reality always in conjunction with digitalization. So it's about digital maturity in terms of infrastructure, servers, data that needs to be ready in the company, within the company, and over applications, especially if you want to use new technology, brand new technology like mixed reality. Another thing are standards and tools that are important to use and work with data and mixed reality. This includes standards like in the architecture, like the BIM standard for building information modeling. These are 3D standards, and this also includes the automation of creating 3D models that are ready for mixed reality devices from CAD models that are very complex and data intensive. Another point is also that we see at the customers that they are experiencing the technology and trying out things in different use cases, but it's very hard to find the right aspect or the right spot where mixed reality really brings value to your company and where the business case is also validated. So this is also one thing that is a learning for us, for many customers. And in the end, usability and user experience is also one very, or two very important topics that always need to be adapted, and the application needs to be designed properly for the use case.
Yeah. So I think we already heard a lot of you know, challenges and hurdles. I don't know, Tetsu, would you have any additions from a Microsoft perspective?
Sure. Thank you for asking that question. So probably from a little bit different angle, as Fredrik mentioned, I think having that mindset to change and, you know, having, you know, it's not going to be an overnight sensation, but still, I think with COVID, I think the change of pace has really gone up, has accelerated. And with that, I think, you know, having that capability to keep up with the increasing velocity and to be able to deliver solutions time to market is really essential for us. Back in May, during one of our flagship events called Build, our CEO, Satya Nadella, he mentioned that during the past 2-3 months, meaning post kind of like when we entered COVID, we've seen like 2 years worth of innovation within these 2-3 months. And with that, you know, I think we really need to have that agility to keep up, plus having the kind of like the eye on the proverbial ball. And meaning during these times, what we set as kind of code of conduct to deliver solutions to our partners are 3 things. They are remote everything, automate everywhere, and simulate anything. Remote everything means shift to remote what can be done remotely. And then secondly is automate everywhere, things that can be automated, like, you know, doing paperwork or manual work, make that automatic, and also simulate anything, meaning utilize data to be able to prepare for any kind of situation. So I think being prepared, having the eye on the ball is probably the key important challenges, I think, when we try to drive digital transformation and innovation.
Okay, so you're looking at that really more from a commercializing point of view and going to market point of view. So maybe over to Mr. Franz Baumgartner from a more R&D perspective, you know, what would you say are still the challenges, maybe on a technical level, but understandable for our, you know, listeners. So what would you say are challenges?
If you talk about challenges, you have to go in detail in the field of the relevant application. So you have to start with the application. And if we do that in photovoltaics, I'm in photovoltaics since 30 years. And 2 weeks ago at the European conference, together with 1,500 participants, they saw the innovation of our way we introduced the Hololens, because in Switzerland, you pay the same amount of money for the PV modules for a new PV plant, the same amount of money then for doing the planning and the measurement on all these administrative issues. So the PV module has the same costs than all these things which the HoloLens is able to do. And you have to go into that field, into that application, and talk about costs. And then you have a chance or not. And we see a big chance in PV in Switzerland, where the salaries are really high, and that's a good situation for the HoloLens applying in PV.
Okay, thank you very much. So maybe you know, going to the B2B space, as we know, you know, a lot of these applications have been focused on entertainment and gaming. And now, Thomas Sendelbach, what do you see as challenging factors in the B2B environment?
First of all, so we are selling the stairlifts to end users. So this is a type of B2C. So after 1 year, the challenges are still that you have to convince your sales reps to really adopt to the new technology. So just imagine one to the other day, they had to switch from a camera approach, now using the HoloLens, and a totally set of new tools. This requires a little bit of change, and maybe prepare those change with training upfront. This is one of the challenges we had in the past. Another challenge is we are virtualizing a staircase to our target group, which are quite old people. Can they handle this virtualization of their own staircase with a new chair? So also consider that the target group is the target group ready to adopt or use, accept the new technology. So these are the two things, besides a few others, which are still dealing with.
I think we lost him there for a second.
Okay. So I think this is what we can visualize.
I'm here.
Are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're virtually coming in and out.
So yeah, technology, it's a challenge. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. If I can add something, topics which have been mentioned in the beginning, of course, a new system like using HoloLens needs to be integrated into the, we call it opportunity to order process. There are many interfaces, and one principle we want to enforce is that if you enter data once, you use it everywhere. So make sure that all the interfaces from the first contact with new data until the end you deliver the product is covered in your integration strategy.
Yeah. Okay, understood. So maybe we need to clarify. Yeah. We need to clarify for the audience HoloLens. Maybe Tetsu, can you quickly share what HoloLens is?
Yep. So what I have here in my hands is the HoloLens. So it's a wearable device where I just put it on. And what it is the lens is transparent. So by wearing this, it shows in front of me digital data, which I can grab, manipulate, change sizes, and all that kind of stuff. So it's the mixture of the real world and digital world through this device.
Okay, so very good. And we will talk a bit more about the HoloLens later on, right? Lars.
Sure. So yeah, why don't we just continue then with the HoloLens. So I read somewhere HoloLens, it's actually HoloLens 2 coming already. Is it available in Singapore? Can I buy it? What's how do you get people involved with if they're fascinated with that device, for example?
Oh, definitely. Thank you for throwing a very great softball here. Last week, effective September 23rd, we've opened up the market for HoloLens to the Singapore market as well. And so within this month, while we do have some allocation, I wouldn't say challenges, but we're beginning to sell these devices through our resellers, ST Engineering in Singapore, which is our authorized reseller. And also we're selling devices through our Microsoft store as well. So yes, Lars, if you want a device, definitely contact either of those two and you will be able to get a HoloLens 2 device.
Will you give him a discount, Tetsu? That's my question.
That's a good question. I think, yeah, it all depends.
I would also like to have one.
Okay, maybe we can take this offline.
Definitely.
Okay, Lars.
Well, I have to ask one critical question. So if somebody, what's roughly a price point that somebody needs to keep in mind just on the hardware without any application, so that we also get an idea on the business side of things?
In Singapore dollars, I think it was like 5,300. I think it was really detailed, something like $5,388 or something like that. In US dollars, it's 3,500.
Okay, thanks for sharing it. Just to get a feeling on what's the price point. It's slightly more than an iPhone. Okay, cool. Thank you. Now let's look from the hardware kind of component that we discussed to maybe a few real applications. And we know that Zuhlke can give a few examples because you're as an innovative consulting and application company. So maybe we can hear a few examples of how you try to implement them, Fredrik.
Of course, yeah. So we are working for many different customers, and mixed reality is a topic at many different customers. They see this as a technology that might really bring value to their business. So at Jungheinrich, for example, we started a POC like 4 years ago when the first HoloLens was announced, and we applied this and developed a software for training with this virtual device, so that people can train different forklift use cases. So how to repair and how to maintain such a forklift. And as training is quite costly, so it takes time in the real world, right? I need to go to the stock, lend one of those forklifts and try my use cases and do my training on it. But what I can do in the virtual world, this is like fantastic, right? I can use a mixed reality device and blend in or place a virtual forklift in my room. And on this virtual forklift, I can try many different scenarios, like doing different repair cases and do training. And it is even possible to use this on a real forklift, so that the lens can recognize the forklift and just hints me with some pop-ups where I need to repair, or where I need to screw something, or where I need to put my hands on the device. So, and this is a guided workflow. Like you can guide this with a real hints in the 3D environment, so that a user is guided through this workflow. And the advantage is also that you do not forget to do something, like to save the forklift when you start repairing it, or to turn it off when you put your hands into the motor block or something like that.
So
it also really enables remote training.
Yeah. So it's really about scalability. I mean, we see here the example of Jungheinrich. It's about scalability. It's about productivity also, because you can display information that you would not be able to display otherwise, right? So I think it's a very powerful use case in a maintenance environment, right?
Exactly, and it is also about a remote usage of this device, because if you are in a country like, for example, Afghanistan, it's hard to find service technicians to send out there for doing forklift repairs, right? So you need to send, you need to just send the device, and with a 3D manual on it, 3D manual software, and you can apply this there. But yeah, let's come to the other two use cases, like for the solar rooftop measurement together with Franz Baumgartner from the ZHAW. So there we applied the HoloLens in a totally different environment, where we used it as a measurement tool on flat rooftops for calculation and visualization of the optimal panel layouts that are possible on this rooftop. This more or less a full digitalization process or workflow of the measurement and installation of those solar panels. And this is maybe also something the project of Franz Baumgartner and the project of thyssenkrupp, Thomas Sendelbach, has in common. So maybe Franz, you can also talk about your project a bit.
Yes, I can. If you see that slide here, you have to do at first the measurement of the roof itself. You have to take into account that in Switzerland, more than 90% of all the roofers have no PV installation, and therefore you have to measure the roofs, because there could be some objects which are shading, make a shade to the PV module, and therefore at first you have to measure the roof and the shading objects, and then with the gesture you can place different mounted solutions for PV modules. And the important thing is that at the end you can include the certain amount of modules, the inverters, the cables, and all the other stuff you need into the whole process of realizing that plant. So you can connect it with a supplier of the parts and the components, and that is a big challenge and a big chance also for the supplier for all these components. And take into account that the PV market worldwide is a 100 billion market. Together with this measurement and including the parts, and you have to include it automatically in the ordering process. And you can also see here, for example, how many PV modules you want to place, for how many shading you want to accept. And so that is also all done in a few minutes on the rooftop. And 5 minutes later, you hand over the offer to the customer down there, and you can show him also a black, a blue, whatever type of PV module on his roof. So it would help a lot, because the PV module nowadays are only 20% of the total costs. And we have to concentrate in optimizing photovoltaics into the other 80%, where the Hololens can do a big job, and I'm sure that will come.
Okay, then let's ask a pointy question on that. So do you say we can theoretically save up to 80% of costs of such projects, or what's the number that we can apply?
Yeah. As I mentioned in the beginning, 20% of all the costs in Switzerland are planning, measurement, and all the administrative issues. So you have to make the planned approval and all these things, but maybe you can save maybe 15% and 15%. It's a big amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Lars,
so a $10 million project is 1.5 million. Yeah. I'd rather take that home than spend it if I don't need to. Fair point.
Yeah.
If you like.
So Lars, maybe is it time for a rapid fire question?
Yes, let's move over to rapid fire. So for our panelists, rapid fire, I'll throw a few questions out there, and I just need you for left, right, black, white, whatever the options are, answer, okay? So also, I might not always use AR, VR, MR in every question, so I just might use one of them synonymously with others, otherwise I'll have too many of those. So first question out, real value. What's the real value for AR, VR, MR, only time? What's the real value? Is it more for B2B or B2C? Tetsu, first one.
I think for now it's more B2B, as there's more use cases like Fredrik mentioned, remote assist, training, those kind of scenarios.
Fredrik, do you agree?
Of course, yeah, at the moment. But yeah, we all saw where Google Glass came to. So yeah. I think there will be some more time until humankind is ready to adopt this in the daily lives of everyone.
But what about Pokemon? Sorry, I need to ask that, Fredrik. Pokemon is a huge success. So that's maybe not our age group, but you know.
That's right. But have you observed the players playing Pokemon? So I have, and I know that they all, or most of them, like 80 to 90% are playing it not in augmented reality. Well, they are walking in outside, but they are playing it in the map mode and not in the augmented mode, right?
Okay.
So
yeah.
This is the one reason for that, is that it's easier to catch the Pokemons if you are not in the augmented reality mode. So this is one nice example where augmented reality makes it more complex to do a task than it is with the common general tools, right?
Yeah, very true. Sorry, I didn't want to, but you know, just came to my mind. So
let's jump to the next question then. AR, VR, MR. Will it drastically revolutionize our everyday life, your, mine, everyday life in the next 5 years? Thomas Sendelbach, what's your take? Not just, you know, your professional application, but our everyday lives in 5 days, in 5 years?
I mean, I've used the Hololens and started one of the games on the lens, and this was a totally new experience. And I would say there's still potential to use this experience also in my private life. That's about gaming. Beyond that, my private life, yeah, it might replace TVs or any monitor, right? And you will mix the reality with pictures from all of the internet. That could be maybe the market for the home market. But they still see also in the B2C market a potential using mixed reality in selling solutions. So not only focusing on B2B.
Professor Baumgartner, question for you. Are we there yet in terms of product implementation and maturity? And I'm sure throughout your career, you have seen so many great concepts and ideations and implementations. Do you think what we have right now, is it already there in terms of what we need to bring it really to a mass adoption level? Yes or no?
I think yes, for a first rough offer for our special application. And I see a lot of big chances in the engineering daily life. We will see it in different fields. If you have to combine measurements, planning, placing, and also in plant approval, different things, in testing and all these things, that will change the engineer's life, I'm sure, in the next years.
Thank you. Tetsu, maybe the last rapid fire question in your direction. What do you think is the #1 factor preventing mass adoption thus far for AR, VR, MR? Is it just price? So what do you think is the #1?
That's one factor, but I think another factor is the immersiveness of the devices, especially wearables. Like the Hololens 2 in front of me, if you compare it with the Hololens 1, it's made leaps and bounds, but still, it's not there where you want to wear it every day and you want to walk around your house and all that kind of stuff. So I think, just getting it down there, having it more mass, and then with that mass production brings down the price. And so I think it's a factor of various things. Yep.
Fantastic.
What about latency? Sorry, I have to ask Tetsu. Is this a problem, data latency? I mean, is it an infrastructure problem also?
Well, at this moment, we usually use most of our data on the device locally, so that might not be an issue. But the more we want to expand our use cases, I think latency or having that kind of like 5G bandwidth will become more important. So obviously for us, Microsoft, we're not just about selling the device, but selling solutions that connect to the cloud. So I think that's a really valid question. Having that bandwidth, the network, and also having applications on the cloud. I think that's all those combinations I think will lead to mass usage.
Okay.
Fantastic. So now let's go to the questions from the audience. Thanks for all of them. All of you who already posted them in, please keep them coming. So let's just start with the first one. Are there any recommendations on the process to get started in this field with AR, VR solutions? How to get early value fast without too much upfront investments, right? Because not everybody has those big, let's play and try it out budgets. Who want to give it a try? Fredrik, you want to give it a try from the consultant point of view?
Yeah, sure. So in Switzerland, we have many small and medium companies, right? So what we tell them is that they should use first like standard tools that are available for such devices, like there are several solutions also from Microsoft that are available for the HoloLens, for example. Just let me point out some of them, which is like Remote Assist, which is also a remote assist software where you can look where you can see the perspective of the field service worker, so you can explain him or her what to do. So this is one general solution, and this is one approach where you can try out the technology and really feel what it is about and how it might bring value to your company. Another point is you can, of course, find a very small use case that brings a lot of value and try to fastly develop this one together with a company like Zuhlke, or together also with universities, which might be cheaper. So if they have this capability ready, and this will bring also some fast value, and you will see if this really is a possibility for your company to try this out. And in the end, so the big investments will not come from the small and medium companies, but more from the bigger companies who can scale the use cases over like thousands of field workers, for example, or thousands of employees.
maybe the same question with a slightly then different perspective. Thomas, when you started working on your project, how did you internally, what did you have to prove to make sure that's a worthwhile investment and you got the go ahead?
Yeah, so one step in the process of getting a chairlift to the customer is measuring the staircase. And since this is feeding into our order entry, we had to prove accuracy of the measurement. So we first started proving that the Hololens is measuring at the accuracy we expected. And once we have convinced the engineers this is working, then we went out and stepped into the sales force and telling them the story about the user experience. And both parameters had to be fulfilled to convince and make the change and use the Hololens in sales, in the sales process. So the most important was the accuracy and convince the engineers and be assured that the factory is ordering a correct product. That was a key.
Great. Let's go to a slightly different topic. Tim Viringa is asking, so Google Glass as one of the first more mass market applications was not a massive success, mainly at the end of the day, due to privacy concerns that completely blew up. So how are those addressed today? And are those actually concerns that apply to the B2B context? You know, I don't want to know what's, you know, I want to make sure that my competitors don't know, for example, what's my PV project and what are my specs. Professor Baumgartner, do you see it's that privacy is a massive issue or not in your kind of very specialized application setting?
I think it's not an issue in our application, but I can think it could be a problem for different applications, but not for PV on a rooftop. So the people want to show their nice pieces for the neighbors so that you make a difference. So I think it's very good so they can see from the street how this appears on their roofs. It's different. You cannot see it on a, and I have another slide here. You can, I have a link down there where you can see how we apply these with a video. How we will do the measurement on the rooftop. It's interesting and how this is done. It's not so complicated, and therefore I think you can also speed up the PV market if you have a very good tool like the HoloLens and right to the point to the customer. You have to address the customer.
Thank you. Yeah, Tetsu, do customers come to you and say, hey, privacy is an issue, or especially in the B2B environment, not that much because, hey, this is your equipment, this is your data, and you own it completely?
There are some cases definitely because, you know, like in case of manufacturer, they're handling devices that are their own IP, so they don't want that to go out of hand into other companies. And with that said, the HoloLens is actually, it's a Windows 10 device. And what I'm trying to say here is that it incorporates the security functions of what Windows 10 delivers. And to be a little bit more granular, like for example, it allows user identification. You can control who accesses to the device. Also, it has this mode called kiosk mode, which can confine or control what kind of applications can be used on the device. So through these kinds of measures, I think privacy can be controlled to a certain extent. Yes, not, I wouldn't say 100%, but to a very great extent.
Okay.
Yeah. So Lars, do we have some other questions from the audience?
Yeah, questions, and I think one is related to that, right?
Yeah.
So in that environment, how much do you think cyber attacks are a challenge? Question from the audience: what are the challenges concerning cyber attacks, if any? Who want to take that one first? Because you know you might get access to more detailed information than just getting a simple blueprint, or you might manipulate environments, and that could do massive harm in a construction or project planning phase. Who want to take that not so easy question?
Let me take a technical perspective for HoloLens. So in regards to HoloLens, so you can't download applications from the web and put them on a HoloLens. The only way you can do it is through the Microsoft Store also there's a mode called side loading where you install the application manually. So unless if you have kind of like what do you say, bad intentions when implementing the applications, that's no way to protect that. But protecting from outside things, the only way to install the applications is what I mentioned. So I think to some degree, I think that's ways to protect from outside attacks.
I can confirm that. So the way we deploy applications, we have our own store, and our sales reps can only download the applications we have approved. So there's no way to install anything else. Regarding customer data, all our customers have to sign an agreement that we can use their data, but we are following the European data protection clauses. So we have not experienced any issue at up to now. I mean, it's like attacking our network. Then, of course, there's no chance for us.
Okay. Then maybe let's go to the next question. In your opinion, what critical role, if any, will Southeast Asia, specifically Southeast Asia, play on a global scale in this AR, VR, MR race? Or can we just conclude basically Southeast Asia, we are followers and not inventors or not leaders? Andreas, who should we pick?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I leave it up to you, Lars.
Fredrik just unmuted, so please.
That's fine. So I think, or my opinion is that the Asian market is ready for this technology. And as I experienced like 10 years ago when I started on working with this topic, augmented reality, I had founded a startup working with Metaio, which was a company which is now bought by Apple and is the core of ARKit. So in my opinion, there were conferences of Metaio in Munich and in Berlin, and there were many people from Asia because they are really, they found this technology really fantastic, and they were convinced of it, and they were eager to try it out. And I think the Asian market is even more open-minded to this technology than we are in Europe, because the Asian economy has much more of a blast, or is more growing than we are in Europe in our more stagnating market. So my opinion is that the Asian market is more than ready for this technology, but yeah, it still needs to find the use cases, and this is the important thing. So where comes the value to the business?
Yeah, so I think, Fredrik, this is more, maybe in your conference there were more people from Japan or Korea and maybe China, right? But not Southeast Asia. I don't think that Southeast Asia, to answer the question, or at least my opinion, is like at the forefront technologically to develop the market. It's really more a follower. And I mean, big developments happen in Japan or China.
That's probably true, yeah. But maybe also like accept or exactly this product preview that you have, like with the project from thyssenkrupp, where you can see your stair lift configured on an iPad, and you can see it on the iPad, and you can also see it on the HoloLens in 3D, riding through your environment. This brings the customer directly into the chain, back into the chain of the, let's say, Industry 4.0 or factory, brings the customer nearer to the factory, because he can configure things and experience them in real life. Well, it's still virtual, but it's not a real forklift. It's not a real forklift, and it's not a real staircase lift, right? But you can still experience it, and you can see how it will look like, and you have a quite good impression of your product that you will get.
Yeah. So maybe, Lars, I would have another question to the panel, just because this was burning. I was waiting now for 30 minutes for that question. So to the panelists, how relevant do you think is AI capability in adoption of of AR or VR. You know, in the end, especially on the mixed reality or augmented reality part, I mean, AR plays a very important role, right, in terms of image recognition. So how relevant is that for future development? So
I don't know. I have a wish, if I can raise maybe. So we have to. You don't believe it, but every staircase is different. So there are different stairs, size, height, handrails, and we always have to measure them. At the moment, we have to consider all these different variations in the code, calculating the rail and measuring the different objects. So if there's an intelligence behind identifying, oh, I had this object last time in a different staircase, it looks a little bit different, but I consider the same logic also for the next variation of this object for a handrail. So if that is something we are targeting to, then it will help us a lot. That would be great. So it's more a wish. Yeah.
But it's
this is a very sorry.
Sorry, it's a requirement or a wish? You would say is it a precondition that we can develop, or?
Yes and no, because we have to limit the time sales rep is measuring a staircase to a minimum, and if this logic helps to save time for the sales rep to talk to the customer, that would be more a requirement. That is definitely a requirement. If that can be achieved by using artificial intelligence to speed up the measuring process, that would be great.
Okay, sorry, and Fredrik, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point, because with, let's say, 10,000 of staircase measurements, we are not so far from applying deep learning algorithms for those staircases, and maybe also on the cloud, like with Azure Cloud Service or whatever is used there, and apply this AI technology to this data. So, and the same is also true for rooftops for Franz Baumgartner's project, right? So as soon as this data is available, we can apply the deep learning algorithms, and this might happen in the near future.
So can we say kind of it's really about when we scale and data volume is going up, that AI becomes actually more important for the use case to really create value out of the data?
Yeah, this is one thing, but on the other hand, also AI needs to develop even more, because yeah, there are also some use cases that needs like object recognition.
Yeah.
Like it would be great if we could simply recognize a stair, or what's a step, what is the handrail. So this is actually currently, this is human work. This is the human intelligence that we need to bring as humans into the software, because the software doesn't know. But if the software would be able to do so, in the future, it might only be necessary to hand a sensor to the customer, and the customer places it somewhere in the staircase environment, and there will be an automatic recognition and intelligence measuring the staircase environment.
Well, you have the technology in autonomous driving, right? I mean, this is where you have the deep learning technology.
That's true, but I think this is still a bit far from applying it, or to install it on a drone and let the drone ride through the staircase environment or over the rooftops, right? Yeah. Franz had in his project, or in another project, he measured the rooftops using drones. So maybe if this comes together, could be a real good application. Yeah,
that's right.
Okay,
yeah.
Maybe last question, or part of a question from the audience before we need to unfortunately wrap up, because time is flying fast. From Joseph Tan, and it's in the context of, especially during with COVID, teleconsult has evolved to video consult, right? For example, in the medical field, but there are still limits. Maybe for Tetsu, do you think that holographic or VR, AR devices can help in this instance for medical applications, or that's a completely new level because, you know, at the end of the day, that's very surface driven?
Definitely. I think if you think about the near future as like one of the examples that Fredrik mentioned about our solution, Remote Assist, it shows the view of the person wearing the HoloLens. So like, for example, if you have a doctor from a remote area providing advice, he can see through that, the HoloLens and see what that person that's in front of the patient is doing. And also what he can do is actually from a remote area, he can annotate on his PC, and where he's trying to provide guidance, that kind of annotation will be put in the air or within the space in front of that person. And also like a futuristic view, what we have right now, and which is kind of like in a POC phase, is that we have this device called Azure Connect, which takes the body format of people. And what we do is kind of like Star Trek, where I wouldn't say Star Trek, but where you have the 3D image of a person next to you. So it's like, you know, you have the 3D image of a doctor next to you if you wear a HoloLens, and you can see that image by utilizing, getting that digital data of that doctor through Azure Connect. So I think there's various use cases right now, and also for the near and distant future as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. And, you know, of course, I then have to refer to the holodeck, but that's for another discussion. I think in the interest of time, I want to say thank you very much. We heard so many great insights, very specific applications. We had the tech layer, we had the consulting point of view. Thomas shared that for the HoloLens, to convince his engineers, one of the most important aspects was the accuracy. Because engineers only believe if it's correct and it's accurate, that it can help me as a tool.
German
right?
engineers, Lars.
We had Tetsu commenting on the privacy that can actually be controlled because it's, at this case, the HoloLens is a Windows 10 device. We heard that, you know, answering the question from Andreas on, is latency an issue? And he said less and less as bandwidth and network speeds go up in the cloud, especially 5G will most likely give us a massive boost in this area. And Professor Baumgartner shared that, for example, for optimizing solar plant planning using AR is a great example, because 20% of the cost is planning. So if we can cut this down to, for example, 15%, then it's really simple mathematics on what would it cost the traditional way, what does the new technology cost, and what are the savings, right? So we heard so many great examples. Thank you very much, Tetsu Muranaka. Thank you, Dr. Fredrik Gundelsweiler. Thank you, Thomas Sendelbach. And thank you, Professor Dr. Franz Baumgartner. And before I forget, of course, special shout out to Zuhlke as the sponsor and supporter of today's episode 5. Thank you, Andreas, for letting me talk more than I usually should.
You're welcome. You're welcome. This was my special gift for you today.
Everybody, last reminder, tomorrow evening, if you want to participate in the Digital Transformation Awards, the time is ticking. Otherwise, next episode, next Tuesday, 5 p.m., digital transformation towards advanced manufacturing. Thank you, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.